Welcome to In the House, and I am so excited. We are joined today by none other than Representative Ted Davis. He represents District 20, New Hanover County. Representative Davis, welcome to In the House.
Thank you, Mark. Nice to be here, and I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you taking time. I know you're a busy guy. You do a lot for our state and for your district, and I just want to dive right in. I've been asking the guys that I've been interviewing, what compels you? You've been in the legislature now 5.5 terms. What compels you to keep wanting to serve your state and your district?
Sure. It all started back in 1996 when I ran for county commissioner, and I ended up serving 4 terms, which was 16 years as a county commissioner. And the reason I did it is I was born and raised here. I love New Hanover County. I love Wilmington. I love Wrightsville Beach and the other beaches, and I love to help people. And that's why I became a county commissioner. And during my last term, towards the end, I was asked to consider seeking an appointment to the state house, which I did. And then I won my first election, and I've been reelected since then, 5 terms, a total of 10 years. And same reason, I just love to help people.
Well, helping people, I know from working down at the General Assembly, that's really the bulk of what you do. I think people have this notion that maybe all you do is work on legislation, but you are often called upon by people in your district and elsewhere to try to help navigate, the maze of state government, I call it, and I know that has to be rewarding for you to be able to reach out and help people that call on you.
It does.
The thing that I wanted to dive into was today, of all days, this is a good day that this happened. I was looking at some things online, Representative Davis, and a website called The Hill, which is very reputable, has a piece in their opinion finance section that says, "Is your state ready for a recession? Follow North Carolina's example." How about that?
Well, it's well deserved.
Yeah, and I'll just read this to you. As the nation braces for a recession, North Carolina will be in a better place than most states thanks to fiscally responsible budgeting and tax cuts that put money back in families' pockets. And I think that's awfully good publicity for our state. And it really encapsulates what you guys have been able to accomplish in fiscal policy since 2011, when the Republicans took the majority in the General Assembly.
That's true, because when I took over or came up, appointed at the end of 2012 and came up on my first session in 2013, one of the first things we had to do was to deal with a $2.4 billion with a B dollar debt the Democrats had created with the unemployment insurance program.
Wow.
It took us about 2 years, but because we revamped that program, streamlined it, we not only paid off that $2.4 billion debt, but you can imagine how much taxes we were having to pay. I'm sorry, interest we were having to pay from taxpayer dollars. We not only paid that up, we actually have a fund in case anything happens with the unemployment program in the future. We won't have to dive into our savings or whatever, our regular money that we're using. We'll have that fund we can go to.
Yeah.
The other thing we had to do was we had to come up with $500 million to shore up the Medicaid program because of the terrible job that had been done under the Democrat administration. Well, we came up with that money. We streamlined the Medicaid program, turned it around under different leadership. We now have an excess fund in the Medicaid program.
Wow,
so in case something goes wrong, that we will have money that we can get into without having to touch our the money that we're using for other things.
Yeah, that's really remarkable. I sit here and I scratch my head sometimes because I don't really know how y'all did it, but that's a lot of money. But the policy that you guys have employed has basically been good old-fashioned common sense. Don't spend more than you're taking in. set some aside and cut taxes so that folks like me can have more money in my paycheck. And I certainly appreciate that. And I know a lot of people do.
Well, that's the thing about Biden inflation. You know, the federal government, they print money like crazy.
Yeah.
We as the state don't. We by law have to come up with a balanced budget. That means we are not spending more than we're getting in. So we have that safety valve.
Yeah.
As you said, we lower the personal income tax and put a cap on it where it cannot come up again above a certain amount. So people don't have to worry about that. We cap the gas tax so that people don't have to worry about with the price of oil going up saying, oh my gosh, is the state going to raise their gas tax to make it more expensive than it already is? Well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We put a cap on sales tax so that people don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, you know, I'm going to have to buy supplies. I've got to buy this. I've got to buy that for my family. Are they going to raise the tax on that? Make it more expensive? Not going to happen because we capped it. Another thing we did this past short session in the budget revisions, we have a $1 billion with a B reserve fund set up in anticipation of a recession. So if this recession actually hits and hits in a negative way, we've already got $1 billion set aside so that we can help people deal with that.
Yeah.
And that's why we're getting these awards. Just like we have 3 different entities that have voted us to be the best site and the best business climate in the whole United States of America.
Yeah.
That's Forbes magazine, Site Selection, and Business Facilities magazine.
That's right.
I mean, it's all because of the great conservative and physically responsible things that Republicans have done since we got into control.
You know, you really can't argue with that. I mean, the evidence is plain as day. And yet still there are those primarily on the left who feel like, well, we just need to spend more than we can, than we take in. We need to go into debt. We need to, and that's just not very smart. And I don't understand why there's even a debate about how best to run a state economy. It's like running your business or running your finances at home. You start taking in or spending more than you take in, you get in debt, you got to pay interest, and bad things tend to happen. So I think as a citizen, I think you guys are doing a great job.
Well, that's the difference between liberal Democrat and conservative Republican leadership. I'll give you a great example. When we were having our rainy day fund and building that money up, Roy Cooper, the governor, criticized the legislature because we weren't spending money on this and spending money on that. Why in the world were you keeping all this money in a fund? Well, you know, when the hurricanes came and the other national disasters that came, guess where the money came from so that we didn't have to raise taxes and we didn't have to cut services. It came from that rainy day fund that Roy Cooper wanted us to spend. That's why we do that. That's why we have those rainy day funds. That's
a glaring example, and I appreciate you. I had forgotten about that, but he definitely was criticizing the legislature publicly, and then lo and behold, it was good that you had that rainy day fund. I know that we think about the hurricanes and the storm damage there from the flooding and all that, but even out west, there was a wildfire a couple of years ago that did a tremendous amount of damage. And then, well, one of the hurricanes came in and flooded a whole portion out in the western part of the state. So just because you're not right near the beach doesn't mean you can't be affected by flooding and all of this stuff. So
that's exactly right.
Let me ask you this from a personal perspective. When you arrived and you were new at this, although you had been a county commissioner for 16 years, did you kind of wonder, is this going to work? You know, are we doing the right thing when you started cutting taxes and stuff like that? Or were you confident that that was the best way to go?
I was confident that we were moving in the right direction because you get a lot of criticism as a Republican, especially with reducing the corporate tax rate. And people complain about corporations not paying a fair share and this and that. But by doing that, it was one of the things, along with reducing the personal income tax, also regulatory reform. They got rid of a lot of hoops you had to jump over that were really unnecessary. All those things together have made North Carolina the business-friendly state that we are. That brings in business. That brings in income. and we get it back that way. So people, I don't think, really look at the big picture and can appreciate why we did what we did. I just wanted to make sure while we were doing this, we didn't do things too fast.
Right.
You know, sometimes like reducing income taxes, that's a great thing. I'm all for it. I hate to pay taxes just like everybody else. But you want to say, okay, we did this. Now let's see how it works. Let's just make sure the next year that we did the right thing. And when that shows to be fine, then let's do some more. Let's do some more. You know, you just don't want to take it in one big swoop because it may not work out. But what we have done has definitely worked out. Yes,
it has. And like I said, as a citizen, I, for one, am thankful for what has really been done thoughtfully. And you know what's funny? I was going to move on to another subject, but I got to say this. I laugh whenever the media or whoever on the left says, oh, these tax cuts are for the rich. Well, you know, when you lower the personal income tax and you raise the standard deduction,
that's right.
By the way, I asked the General Assembly Fiscal Research Division one time how many people in North Carolina use the standard deduction, and they told me 2/3. So 2/3 of our citizens, when they file their taxes, they don't itemize, they use the standard deduction. That's like me. So when you raise the standard deduction, you are helping just regular folks. And it's not tax cuts for the rich, which is just this nonsense to try to create, you know, some kind of division. But what you guys have done has been helpful all across the middle class, the working class of people of our state.
I mean, we've tried to do a lot of things such as, I mean, going off on a little bit about what you were talking about, the opportunity scholarships program that we have that allow low-income families to be able to get the money to be able to send their child to the school of their choice.
Yeah.
That is something that really helps with the inflationary factor.
Yeah.
I mean, I could just go on and on and on. I am really so proud to have been a part of what the Republicans have done. I really am, because we have truly helped people. And you know, Mark, talk is cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going through a very nasty campaign right now where my opponent is talking all this talk. Well, as I say, talk is talk. You got to walk the walk.
Yeah.
You know, not only I, but the other Republicans up there have truly shown we have walked the walk, and we have truly helped people, not just say a bunch of, you know, blow a bunch of smoke and say a bunch of things. We've got the track record to prove it.
Yeah. You know, just to tee off on that opportunity scholarship thing, what's so funny to me is the left criticizes that, wants to do away with it. And yet they claim to be the champions of the low income folks and people that need a helping hand. And this opportunity scholarship helps those very people. And yet, oh, we got to get rid of that. It's, you know, and that's just ridiculous. It's like talking out of both sides of their mouth. And it's a great program. And you know what? It is in demand. There are so many people that are being helped by it and want to be a part of it. And yet it's crazy to me how anyone could criticize that.
Well, it's the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It really is. It gets me too that when the Democrats vote against a budget, like you just said, which raises the standard deduction, we mean people don't have to pay taxes on any of that money up to that point. We also increase the child care credit. I mean, we have done so much to help the people that really need the help, but yet all the Democrats or the liberals want to do is talk about how we're doing all this stuff for the corporations.
Yeah.
For the rich. Don't ever mention all the stuff that we've done for everybody else, but that's their game.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a shame because
it is.
You know, helping people is what it's all about. And speaking of that, wanted to ask you a little bit about a couple of bills that you had sponsored and were signed into law. Tell me a little bit about Jordan's Law. You actually received an award from the folks that are involved with domestic violence for this piece of legislation. Tell me about Jordan's Law.
Certainly. I've always been in opposition of domestic law. I was as a when I was in private practice. I'm a former federal prosecutor and a former state prosecutor. So I don't put up with that mess.
Yeah.
And it's something that needs to be stopped. And what the situation you have is kind of interesting. When you go in and get a domestic violence protective order, and let's say it's good for 1 year, when that 1 year is going to expire and you want to extend it, you have to file a motion to extend that domestic violence protective order, but then the other side has to be served. You have to schedule it for a hearing. You have to finally get a court date.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is the original order expires. You have no protection until you actually have that court date, and hopefully that the judge will extend it. So what Jordan's law does is when a person's domestic violence order is going to expire and they go into court and they file for an extension, the judge right then and there can grant them a temporary extension.
Okay.
To keep that domestic violence order in effect until you do finally have that hearing. So it just keeps that protection in place.
Yeah.
And I was very proud to get that acknowledgement for that.
Well, you know what? That's really remarkable that you would have thought about that, because I'm sure a lot of people had never even really considered that. They just accepted it as part of the process. So tip of the hat to you for thinking of that and working to get that legislation passed so that folks are able to stay safe, And speaking of that, there's a bill that you had sponsored and passed involved with retail crime activity. Tell us about that.
Well, that was by the Retail Merchants Association. They have so much problems with retail crime. And of course, when you have that sort of thing, it affects not only the businesses per se, but customers as well, because a lot of times you got to raise prices to make up for what you're losing because of people stealing things.
Yeah.
So anyway, I among others, I was not the only one. I was along with others in the House as well as some in the Senate to address that. And we both filed what's called a companion bill, which was for the same thing. And anyway, the bill passed both chambers, and then it went to the governor. He signed it, and that's now in effect. So that's going to protect not only the retailers, but it's also going to protect the customers.
Good. Well, it sounds like you're thinking about things that need to be addressed. So often, the average citizen doesn't know what you guys do, and it sounds like that you are thinking about things that need to be addressed and coming up with positive solutions. So, tell me a little bit about what you see in the near future for North Carolina. Do you feel like if there is a recession, we'll be okay? Do you feel like that we can continue on the path that we are on, where economic development is growing and businesses are coming here and creating jobs?
I know this sounds like a loaded question and a loaded answer, but really it's all going to depend on this election. If the problem we've had for the last 2 years, even though we've been able to do so many great things, the governor has vetoed so many good conservative Republican bills. And because we don't have what's called a supermajority in either the House or the Senate, we can't override those vetoes.
Yeah, that's right.
We've had bills dealing with election integrity that have been overruled. And for those that don't know, by a supermajority, that means you have enough Republicans in each chamber that you can vote to override a veto without any vote from the Democrat. And no Democrat's going to vote to overturn Cooper. So what you've had, if we don't want 2 more years of this, we need to get the supermajority in both the House and the Senate. We need to have our Republican senators our United States senators and congressmen to be Republicans. We need to set everything up on a national level so that in 2 years, whoever the Democrat nominee is, whether it's Biden or somebody else, we will be able to take the Republicans and win the presidency back with a majority in Congress, and also come down to the governor of North Carolina being a Republican and a majority in the House and the Senate. And we can get back to where we were before. And I feel like it'll be a steamroller because we have built the economic infrastructure to deal with a recession. Sure, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt me. It's hurting my retirement and a lot of other people. But I believe if we can get this election to go the right way and keep the people in power that are in there now, so we can keep these great things going, yes, I think we'll be in good shape, because if you look at it now, we have so many new businesses that are coming here. We have businesses that are here that are expanding. I mean, we are just ripe for economic development, and we work hard for it in Raleigh, and we work hard for it locally here in New Hanover County.
Yeah, you guys have seen some positive growth down there. I know the port has been just really doing well, even in a time when port traffic was held up and delayed. The port there in Wilmington was saying, y'all come on through here. We're ready to take on your business. And so the folks down there are doing a great job.
And one thing we did too, Mark, is that we deepened the channel, which was important, because now we can get these super tankers, these really large ships that couldn't come up here before, to be able to come here. And it's amazing to see the size of those things, and amazing to see the number of those, the cargo containers that are on there, and the new lists we had to put in that reach out over and can pick all these things up at one time. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. I look at their videos they put out sometime, and I need to get down there and see it in person. Running out of time, I didn't want to keep you very long, but do you think that the people understand just how important it is to stay the course that we're on? I know you hope that they do, but I think they do. I'm hopeful that they do also. But what do you think?
I would hope so. But the problem that I have found in politics a lot of times, that people don't care.
Yeah.
They're disenfranchised. They don't watch the news. Not that our newspaper's any good, but they don't read papers, or publications. They don't keep up with what's going on. And I know before, even all the time I've been in politics, we'll do surveys and people will come back, I don't know this guy. And I'm sitting there going, you give me a break. I've been doing this for so long. But that comes with the growth, Mark. When you have new people coming in, they don't know the people down here.
Right.
They don't know the history down here. And they really don't know the impact that these elections can have. And I was out today at polling places telling people not only how important it is for our local school board race, county commissioner race, our state, House and Senate race, but our judges. It is so important. People need to understand we're down one judge on the North Carolina Supreme Court. There are two openings. One's contested, one's not. All we got to do is get one of those. I hope we get both. We can swing this whole thing around, because right now we've lost before we even go in the courtroom.
Yeah.
We do have a majority on the Court of Appeals, but it needs to be bigger, and we need to put more Republicans on there. If we can get all our ducks in a row, and as you say, the stars aligned and the planets aligned in the heavens, it could just be absolutely awesome.
Well, and I'm trying not to get overtly political on these interviews, but I just would hope that the average citizen would look at what you guys have accomplished, folks like yourself who have been going to Raleigh and crafting fiscal policy, and realize that our state is in a unique economic position to weather economic storms, to continue to grow, to attract businesses, which mean jobs, which means growth, which means more opportunity for tax cuts, and that people would appreciate that. I think that is something that people need to be aware of, because the other side of that coin is overspending, tax increases, deficits, debt, and the stuff that we saw up until 2010, that our state was in economic shambles. And I don't say that to be, overly dramatic. It was. And so I just hope people will be able to see the good that has been done by you guys and appreciate it.
Well, I think what you have, of course, the Republicans understand that.
Yeah.
I will hope that the unaffiliated voters will look at what the Republicans have done so they can understand.
Yeah.
The Democrats, there's no hope. They are just so into their ideology of this ultra liberal. I know if anybody wants to get the shock of your life, go to the North Carolina Progressive Caucus and read what their platform is. I mean, they want to do away with everything: school resource officer, crime, criminal offenses, prisons. I mean, it just scares the daylights out of me.
Yeah.
And if those people get in power, if you think we've had it bad under Biden for the last couple of years, you haven't seen anything yet. We will be in a little world of hurt.
Wow. Well, Representative Davis, thank you for your time. Thank you for all that you're doing for your district and for our state. And I enjoyed talking to you, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Yes, sir.